I thought I'd do a follow up here very quickly on something I mentioned earlier, which was the Sam Seder debate. And I haven't watched the whole debate, I just watched some highlights. Sam Seder is a guy who has been on Air America, and so he's been a broadcaster. He has maintained a contract, I guess, with MSNBC. Occasionally contributes as a talking head there. He's a progressive Democrat. Um, that's all fine and good, I guess. I'm not really that interested anymore in him, but the problem is he went on a show with a podcaster, and the podcaster is a well known capitalist, I guess you could call him. And I don't know much about him. I know he's done interviews. He did an interview. He might have done a symposium or something with a former member of the mafia, and he also does a lot of interviews and debates. And the thing that's stuck in my mind about this is that both Seder and this guy, this capitalist, claimed victory. They both claimed that they annihilated each other. That just goes to show what I said before about how completely useless these things are. Because both teams high five one another, and they often take the same information or the same response and claim victory. So everybody who subscribes to this podcaster's feed basically thinks that Sam Seder's an idiot, and all of Sam Seder's fans think that he's a genius and he destroyed the other guy. So I'm not a fan of this. I think that stuff's really awful. But I would never go on a show like that because it's never going to produce anything good. If anyone can be converted from let's say, a right wing point of view, then they should be converted by watching your show, by listening to you make arguments. They shouldn't be converted by you going on that other person's show so they can quote unquote make a fool out of you. Now I know some people are going to make the argument that by going on this guy's show, he is exposing himself to right wingers who may want to watch other Sam Seder shows. His channel is called The Majority Report. But the reality is that I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think that happens. I think what happens is most people are in a political camp, and the abuses of that political camp or the internal contradictions of that political camp cause them to try on other ideas for size. That's what I think happens. I could be wrong. I've been wrong before about things. But that's what I think changes minds. I think people have their own internal values, and sometimes the cult that they're in or the group that they're in contradicts those values. And people decide to grow from there. That's what I think happens. Because values are very important, and that's how you choose which camp you're in. And so I don't think these debates accomplish much of anything. I should say, on the substance of what I saw, they got into this debate, and the questions that the capitalist asked Sam Seder were, like, for example, what do you think would happen if we cut your ad revenue? That's eventually the question was posed, would you cut your own show or your production values, or would you keep making the same programming? Would you keep putting out the same product, even if you face a 90% reduction in your revenues? And he admitted that if your ad revenue goes down, or your revenue in general, or even if your subscribers, in his case, he has people that give him money because they get membership in Majority Report. If 90% of those people were to go away, or for whatever reason do their own thing, that he would cut the production values, or he would either produce less, or he would fire a bunch of people who work for him, or he would produce less, whatever it is. He would change the production value of his show. And the conservatives took this as victory because they're saying that corporations, therefore, at a maximum tax rate of 90%, which is the tax rate that existed when Eisenhower was president, that somehow they're not going to have the incentive to produce things because their tax rate's going to be so high. Well, that's not how it actually worked. You see, what the high tax rates actually were a maximum wage. People are used to thinking of this concept of minimum wage, which is what you have to pay someone if you hire them, the absolute minimum wage in your state, for example. But there was, under the New Deal, in the 1930s, 1940s, 1950s, there was a maximum wage. So a CEO couldn't go above a certain wage. In those days, I think it was like $1 million, or in today's money, like $10 million. And if you hit that point, everything above that point, you'd be punished by having 90% of it taxed. That's what that means. It doesn't mean if Paris Hilton makes $750,000 in 1 year that they confiscate 90% of it. That's not what that means. And the effect of having a maximum wage on a CEO would be profound, because they could no longer take the surplus value that the workers produce and pay themselves these exorbitant amounts, which lead to other negative things. You'd have to reinvest that in the corporation, which helps the working class. You could actually pay people bonuses, which helps the working class. You wouldn't have so much money to play with, which means less money to put into the casino economy, which also helps the working class indirectly. So that's why you had a maximum wage, because by having this maximum wage, it leads to what was called... I know it sounds like I'm making a defense here of the liberal state, but what I'm saying is there was actually a positive effect of having these supposed confiscatory high maximum wage taxes, with the upper bracket paying 90% or more, 91% I think it was. You had this thing called the Great Compression, where the difference between the upper strata and the lower strata narrowed. So Sam Seder going on the show didn't really defend what the maximum wage was. Having higher taxes is undoubtedly better for capitalism. They have plenty of billionaires in Norway. The fact that the capitalist class opposes what's actually good for capitalism goes to show you how irrational, spoiled, and stupid the American capitalist class is. And that's not something that Sam Seder is prepared to argue correctly or fight for. I'm just being real about that. Now, I would not prefer, as a leftist, I'm not arguing for the superiority of social democracy. I prefer socialism. However, internal contradictions of social democracy aside, when it works better than whatever crazy idea the capitalist podcaster had in his head. Because that's just plain stupid. Anyway, that is the commentary for that. I just want to do a little quick follow-up on that. Catch you guys later. Thank you very much. Like and subscribe. See me on Twitter at Roger on the Left. Thank you.